Hi, this is Tom DeWeese, President of the American Policy Center, and this is the sixth of the webinars, training webinars that we have been producing to teach you how to fight back at right there in your own community. And we're going through the most incredible times that not only the United States has ever experienced, I think the entire human race has ever experienced what we're going through now. And one of the things that I really focus on these training webinars is, I know so many of you aren't professional activists and are totally involved, but you are frightened by what's going on. You want to do something about it and don't know how. You're just one person, and how do you get started? What do you do? And that really is the focus of this training that we're doing. And what I want to do today is kind of review some of the things we've gone over in the last 5, because as we get into these things, it can get very convoluted. There's so many things to do, so much information to try to absorb. And I understand that. So I want to kind of go over some of these things and bring it down to the simplest form I can, just to give you the real basics of what we need to do. And so hang in there, and we'll go over these things. And our website, americanpolicy.org, we've got lots of other tools that you can look into, lots of background information on a lot of the issues that we're dealing with. We've put our new manual together, our new workbook for local activists, and all the details on how to fight back. And if you get a copy of that, you'll also get the code to get into our on our webpage, the toolkit that we've put together with a whole lot more information. So we'll give you more information about that after this is over. But let's look at this. The situation we have right now, as we're talking to you, the presidential election has not been decided. We're in the middle of lawsuits back and forth, and people just don't know, which direction to turn. You need to ask this question. If Biden wins, if he pulls this off and he takes over the White House, we all know that we're in great danger. He's already announced a cabinet that's stacked with anti-constitutionalist leftists that are dedicated to reorganizing our nation into a globalist pawn. You and I will have to fight like we've never fought before. What do we do? How do we deal with that? But on the other hand, what happens if Trump wins and he does pull off this miracle and he retains the White House? Do you think that these socialists, these globalists, are going to just stop and accept his victory? Of course not. They are dedicated, they are trained, they have an agenda, and they intend to put that all in place. It doesn't matter. If they don't have control of the White House, they are going to go after city councils, county commissions, mayor's offices, governor's offices, and so forth. And you've already seen what is happening with the COVID lockdown. The mayors and the governors are the ones who are instituting these horrendous tactics that they have been using, and they're training their people to go into city councils, into the county commissions, and they're moving forward with what they're calling the Great Reset, especially targeting the local and state levels. They understand that's where the power is. The great danger is if our side simply celebrates Trump's victory. Oh, good, Trump won. Oh, we can go home. We don't have to do any more of this. Life will return to normal. Well, then we leave the field to the left. The left is determined to move that agenda forward. And that's why we cannot let that happen. Because this is what has happened, ladies and gentlemen. For 50 years, they have been determined to put this agenda in place, and they've moved forward with it. And we have just kind of ignored it. We haven't faced it. We haven't looked at what they're really doing. Usually we hear their policies and we say, those people are just crazy. It's easy to do that because they are, but they have succeeded while we have been sleeping. The fact is, we must fight like never before. No matter who finally wins, However, as I said, historically, there has been a great reluctance on our side to organize on the local levels, but that is what we must do. Today, I want to take this time, as I said, to review some of the basics which we've already discussed in previous webinars. Then in coming weeks, we are going to begin to add new tactics. Those future webinars will focus on how to organize political campaigns and how to put our people into local office. And we will discuss legal actions that hopefully we can take. That the purpose of that, those elected officials that are already in office, that are sitting there in those city council meetings, county commission meetings, that are looking down at you and ignoring you and paying no attention to you, and they continue to move forward with their policies, paying no attention to us. Why? Why do they do that? The truth of the matter is, it's because they have no consequences, no personal consequences for their actions. And what we need to do is take legal action to make them personally responsible for what they've done. You do that a couple of times, you're going to have them listening to you. And we'll talk about that in future webinars. We need to drastically change tactics and develop a new way to move forward. That's what the APC training program is all designed to do. Take control, change the debate, and I'll explain that a little bit, and turn our communities into freedom pods. Now, we've been talking about this, we've hinted around about this, about freedom pods. What do I mean by a freedom pod? Well, you have to ask the question, how do we effectively fight to restore liberty in America? Most of us think that just getting involved in a presidential campaign, getting a president elected is the answer. But what if we lose that race, as I've said? What if we win? What difference does it make? What do we have to do to restore our liberty? Well, the first step to answer that question, listen to me carefully. The first step to answer that question is to stop depending on one person, one icon, to lead us forward. We must take the responsibility ourselves to assure that government does not move forward unattended. Don't let them sneak these policies in place. You have got to be on their back. They are terrified that you will learn that. That is what you need to do. And we need to change the debate to attack anti-freedom policies, expose non-governmental organizations operating in your community. These are the guys hiding in the shadows. These are the guys who are right there in the ear of your elected officials, telling them, here's the next program, here's the next one. Hey, we've got the money for you too. Put it all right, all this together. And they put these policies in place. And the reason that they are not listening to you is because you're not there for the most part. I know some of you are, but a whole lot of us are not there. Eventually, your elected officials begin to believe, well, this is a proper role of government. This is what we're supposed to do. Hey, everybody's doing it. We're sending them off to meetings, national meetings, where they're meeting other people. They're hearing from these same NGOs from the podium, and they're telling them, here's the latest, got it all right here in a box for you, got the money for you too. And they just begin to believe this is a proper role of government. We've got to change that. So, what if you had a county commission that refused to participate in non-elected regional government? Think about that. What if you had that? How would your life change if your city council was made up of individuals who guided your community under the 3 pillars of freedom? The 3 pillars of freedom are free enterprise, private property, and individuality. What if we had people in office who understood that and defended them? What if we had policies that began to promote free enterprise in your community, not for these global corporations? Let me talk a little to you about non-governmental organizations and the public-private partnerships and how they operate. We've talked about the NGOs. Public-private partnerships are the Walmarts of the world, the Amazons, the Targets, all of these global corporations. Now, when they play ball with this, here's what happens. They get to go to the front of the line for all the goodies that government is giving out, tax breaks, the best place to put their business, anything that they need. They get to help write the legislation that actually ends up putting their competition out of business. And what does government get out of that? The corporations use their advertising budgets and they promote the sustainablest policies. Listen to the ads. Listen to those ads coming out of Amazon. Listen to the ads coming out of Target and Whole Foods and all of these, all about this is sustainable, this is sustainably grown, and this is all for this policy. They get you beginning to believe that's what you have to, that's the proper thing, that's what you have to accept. So they are promoting these agendas through their advertising. It's a sales pitch to get you to buy in and accept all of this. And then one of us comes along who says, hey, this is crazy, this is wrong, this is anti-free enterprise, all that. Then we get awarded the tinfoil hats. We get to be told that we're the nutcases. And that's exactly how they put this together. But what if we began to elect people? We had a system to organize, to research, and get the right people in office or control the people who are in office so that we in our community, just focus on your one community, not next door, not the next county, not next city over, not the state, just your community, that you can have policies put in place that help local businesses compete in your community. They get the tax breaks, they get the good locations for their business, they're protected. Not everything is licensed and controlled. What if you have people in office that are recognizing your right to control your own private property? How about all the choices that you want to make in your life as an individual to live your life, that these things are recognized, not a one-size-fits-all tyranny of sustainable development that's telling you over and over again, this is how you have to live. But instead, you have a community that recognizes these liberties. That is what I mean by a freedom pod. Your community becomes a freedom pod. And here's what will happen. You get that accomplished in your city council. You get a mayor who recognizes that. The next thing that'll happen is your county commission will begin to look at that. You will begin to control that as well. And you won't have all these regional and non-elected county governments that everybody's locked in at the same time. You will have a county that'll stand up and say, no, this is just for this county. This is how we operate. Now you've grown to another pod. Now the community next door looks and says, look what they did. And they begin. Step by step by step, you begin to build these freedom pods to where they begin to affect your state legislature. Why does it affect the state legislature? Because you are now getting good qualified people running for these offices, and that'll begin to move up. And we have, in one of our webinars with State Representative Matt Shea, if you remember, we offered a package of 5 bills that we taught how, even if they're in a minority in their legislature, that they can work with other state legislatures, they can put a package of bills together and begin to change the debate, get these issues moving forward in a unified manner. We've been talking about that, and that's how you handle that. Step by step, this is how we begin to organize freedom pods one at a time. And keep in mind, for decades, the radical left has been dedicated in its efforts to organize at every level of government, while advocates of limited government have failed to do the required dirty work. And dirty work, by that I mean local organization, getting out at night, getting out and seeing your city councilmen and talking to them, organizing to promote your positions. We have failed to do that. And meanwhile, they have found, the radical left has found, no position is too small for them to focus on. Every single position, whether it is the, in the local elected positions, or it is in the appointed positions, that every one of those have an ability to influence policy, and they've left no stone unturned. As you know, they have looked at every single position that can help them with policy. Think about this. Don't you wish the conservative activists had been in control of your local election board for this last election, so that you knew that the election was honest, that things were run properly? When was the last time you ever thought about how important the position of city attorney is? Yet, these are the people who are enforcing a lot of these COVID lockdowns. Just think, if we were focusing on those kinds of positions, but we haven't been. Now we have crisis all across the country. One thing this COVID lockdown has proven is how important local and state positions are. You know, we began to put together these webinars, and it was before all this started. And I knew pre-COVID, I knew how to fight back. But as all of a sudden all these lockdowns began to be put in place, I waited to see where this was going, what was going to happen, because I didn't want to teach you things that would lead you in the wrong direction. Well, what it proved to me was we were exactly right to begin with, how we were approaching this. Local, local, local. We all want to get involved in the presidential races. That's exciting. And of course, Congress is vitally important. There's no question about that. I don't mean to downplay that. But as I said from the beginning, if Biden wins or if Trump wins, these policies are going to be coming into your local community and moving up from there, no matter what happens. We've got to be ready, and that's what this is all about. So let's get into it. I want to review what we've talked about here in the past. I want to give you some very basic things that you can look at. How do you build that freedom pod in your community? Well, if you remember the first basic rule, fight on the local level, everything else will follow. The first thing you need to do is begin to build a team. And that's the one thing that scares everybody. How do you do this? How do you build a team? First of all, you don't need to have 100 people in town. You can do this with 10 dedicated people divided in proper roles that they're good at. And that's what you'll learn as you go along, who's good at what. Building the team. The number one thing that you need to do first, you got to know your enemy. Who are you up against? What policies are you up against? What is there for you? How do you do that? Research. You've probably got a friend, somebody, the bookworm, the person who just loves to dig down and find things, getting in there and doing the research. It's probably for a lot of us, it's the least fun thing to do, but it's the most important. And when I do my public speaking, I'll ask the audience, how many people here like to do research? 4 or 5 hands will go up out of 100 people, and I'll say, you're the most important people in the room. And what do? You begin to know your enemy. Who are the players down at City Hall? These NGO organizations, these planning groups, the American Planning Association, or the Sierra Club, or there's thousands of these non-governmental organizations. They work hand in hand, and every single program that comes into your community probably has one NGO group that's their specialty, that's their expertise, that's what they put together. And we need to find out who they are. And they've worked. Here's the thing to remember: they're not part of your community. They're carpetbaggers. They have come from somewhere else. They have a record of what they have done. That's what you research. As you begin to find these NGOs that are involved, you can begin to research them and see what they've done in other communities. And that becomes a very valuable tool for you to begin to organize to fight against them. What programs have they promoted in the past? How are they funded? Who are their leaders? Where did they come from? Probably find George Soros at the end of most of them. And here's a major thing for you to look for. Is there a specific part of the city that will be affected by their plan? Now, why do you want to look at that? What part of the city, they have these comprehensive plans. They want to completely tear down a section of the city and rebuild some big shiny new high-rise smart growth part of the community or whatever. Well, the reason that you want to know where this will be is because in that area are victims, people who are going to lose their homes. They may lose their small business. And this is one way to begin to build your organization, because you can go down and talk to these people and say, you know what they're about to do? And you can recruit them. One of the things that the power mongers behind this stuff fear the most is victims showing up and telling on them. So that's one of the things to look for. So, there's one other thing. There's one other thing in research. As you're looking through the comprehensive plan, look for one simple phrase anywhere in the comprehensive plan. Look for anywhere it says something about protection of private property. You won't find it. And that becomes a major weapon you can use later on. The second thing in your team, at first we got research, now we have the watchers. The watchers are 3 or 4 people who volunteer to attend every single public meeting, to record what is said and who said it, determine who are the main movers in the meeting, the leaders pushing the agenda. The watchers will soon, you'll see they're going to see who the NGOs are, the planning people, the ones who have the most influence they're wielding. And the other thing that you're going to determine as these people watch what's going on there, which member of the city council or the county commission is with them? Which one is pushing their programs the hardest? That's going to be valuable information along the line, because the next step you can do with him, you can try to talk to him. You can see if you can reason with him, see if you can talk him into seeing your point of view, or you can begin to gather information to start to target them in the next election. That's what this is all about, preparing the watchers. They're there. The more they attend those meetings, the more they'll learn. And the other thing is, the other side begins to learn they're there, then they get a little worried because, opposition is here. And that's a good thing too. The third thing in your team, research, watchers, the strategist. Now this is the main leader of your efforts. This is the person who kind of oversees all. This is a coach for the team, if you can. He needs to be somebody who kind of understands all these different things, what needs to be done. He looks over the research. He sees what's been found that way. He looks over the comprehensive plan. And of course, the research people are pointing out what they found there. The watchers are pointing out what they found there. And he's able to take all that information and begin to coordinate what needs to be done. The fourth thing, part of your group, now that you've put all this together, are the agitators. These are the people who will be your spokesman to address public meetings and present your position, your case. These are the ones who are the best spokesmen for you. And one of the most important things to know about all this is that you don't want to have one. You need to have a team, 4, 5, 6 different ones. And they don't all have to represent the same organization. Come up with 5 or 6 different names for an organization. You've got take a certain neighborhood and say Evergreen neighborhood, and we are the Evergreen Neighborhood Association, and then take some other names clever to that. And now you've got 5 or 6 people there representing several different organizations. That's power. That's what you do. So don't just be one person, and don't just be one organization. The fifth And as I said before, the one that scares them the most are the victims. These are the people who the promoters of these policies fear most, the people who will be most affected and perhaps damaged by their policies. You get them in front of the officials at a public meeting, giving a compelling story of what they've lost. Just imagine they're putting together these smart growth policies where they are coming into probably a low income neighborhood, and they decide, well, this is all kind of a swamp here. We're going to go in there and tear all that down, and you're not going to believe how beautiful and shiny new it's going to be as we build that up. And we're going to tear all those houses down, and we're going to get rid of all those little mom and pop businesses and stuff. That's what's going to happen. They're going to be gotten rid of, and they're going to bring in these shiny new high rises and a little shopping mall there, and we're going to have the finest restaurants, and we're going to have all these different global stores are going to be in there, and you've seen all these places. Yeah. What about the victims? What happens to them? Are they going to lose some of them have their own property there. People do own their own property in some of these lower income neighborhoods. People do own their own small businesses, little restaurants, little grocery stores, and so forth. Maybe a filling station, who knows? They're all gone. Where can they go? They can't live back in that neighborhood anymore. They won't be able to afford it. And in many cases, these will be minorities who are living there. This is an opportunity to grow your movement and include minorities in it. And having those people stand in front of a meeting, a public meeting, and telling their story and how they have now been reduced to only being able to live on welfare, government handouts, because of what they have done. That is the most powerful thing that you can put in front of those elected officials and make your point on it. The sixth thing for your team is the media team. 2 or 3 people to stay in constant touch with your local news media. I know every single community in this country has their newspaper, their local TV, local radio station, all liberals, all liberals, all liberals. Well, we avoid them like the plague. It's not fun to deal with them. And of course, if they report on you, they'll probably taint it and not tell exactly the whole thing. But it's possible to begin to befriend a specific reporter. One of the reasons some of these reporters do what they do, they play ball with the elected officials because that's how they get access for their stories. And if they write something against them, they lose that access, whether it's school board or the city council or the mayor or whatever. You know, he's going to say, get out of here. Well, give them the other side. Maybe, just maybe, if you get an honest reporter, now you're giving him access that he didn't have before. Maybe he'll see. You know, of course, he won't get invited to their Christmas party after that, but maybe you'll have one. But you need to be in front of them. They need to hear from you. And I say this as somebody who avoids those people like the plague too many times. I shouldn't do that, but I've had experience in the New York Times and other publications that have lied and said things about me that weren't true. But I consider the source and move on. But in your local community, you need to talk to them. They need to know you're there. Also, there's another thing, something we're working on, and I hope to have something on this soon, is how to start your own newspaper. What if you could start your own local newspaper and begin to get your site out there? There are some people working on this, and we'll share that as we get that to come together. The other part of that is social media. And one of the things that these elected officials will be watching, if you've got a social media page, Facebook, whatever it is, they'll watch to see if it's growing. If it begins to grow, if you get more people coming onto your page, they take notice. And that's an important thing to do. If you got some young people working in your group, here's a good chance for them to really show what they can do, because they love that stuff. And they can show you ideas on how to build your social media. But that has to be a major part of your team. And the next thing, actually the most important thing here, the team of activists. These are the people who will show up to do the grunt work. Now, they don't want to speak out or do the research, or they don't have time to do those things and so forth. But if you have a rally, they'll show up. If you want to put a protest together down at City Hall, they'll show up. If you want to stack City Hall or county commission meeting and you need lots of numbers, these are the people. So that's who they are. And so the activists are those people who can't do everything else, but they're interested, they're dedicated, they want to do something. Then you give them that to do. And what are some of the things that you begin to do as you pull this team together? As I mentioned, we're talking about taking legal action, and we're going to talk about this in an upcoming webinar. There is something that I've learned about in the last year, and I've been trying to get this down to really work for you. And I think we're about there. It's in the 1964 Civil Rights Act. There is a section called 1983, Section 1983. What this says is, your elected officials take an oath to defend the Constitution. And as I said earlier, as they put these plans together, and you've tried to protest, you've tried to argue against it and so forth, and they don't pay any attention to you, that's because they don't have any consequences. Even if you were successful in suing the city over them taking your land or closing your business down or whatever the case may be, well, they didn't pay any legal fees. They didn't go to jail over it. The taxpayers paid any legal fees and fines. So they have no personal consequences. We need to make them feel pain. We need to make them understand that if they continue to do these things and violate the Constitution, our constitutional rights, and our property rights, and our liberty, then they're going to pay for it personally. Under Section 1983, if you can prove that they have violated your civil rights, and what civil rights is violated when you take your property away, when they shut your business down, when they tell you you can't have, how about under all the COVID lockdowns, that you can't have any customers coming into your business, you have to shut down and so forth. If you were able to show that you had your rights violated and you filed a 1983 action and you won, a lot of businesses would open real fast. A lot of these restrictions would be taken away real fast. Just win one of these cases, you never have to file another one. Just threaten it. That's what we're working on to do. You also have the opportunity in Section 3 of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, a similar situation. And again, we're going to do a webinar on this and have more details on it as we go along here. And but your research can lead you to the appropriate action and what to take together with that. The next thing is how to build a campaign. The most effective way to take control of policy is to elect the representatives who support your positions. And many times these people will be people from your own organization. You've groomed them. Some of those great spokesmen that got up there. They understand, they know the goal, and they're ready to fight. And people begin to know them, and we begin to organize the campaigns. And one of the most important things in doing this, and again, we're going to have a webinar on this coming up, but something we have neglected for years is organizing our neighborhoods, our precincts. I have wrote an article that not long ago that said the most important position is precinct captain. This is the person who can organize neighborhoods. You begin to organize your neighborhood and you can control who's getting out to vote because you're going door to door. You're getting them to say, hey, we got to get out there, got to get out there. This is what the other side has already done. And we haven't. And their people are piling to the polls and ours aren't. Get them to the polls and begin to elect people in out of your precinct. You'll have governor candidates, you'll have presidential candidates seeking you out if you do this successfully. And we're going to have a webinar on this and talk about how that's going to be done. And finally, one of the great things we can do in our community is build a grading system. Reveal how well elected officials are defending liberty. a grading system of from 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 1 being they're nothing. And you start looking at these specific issues and begin to put together a report for each member of the city council, or for your mayor, or for your county commissioners. You put together a report and say you take the top 10 legislative pieces that they've pushed through, whether it's bills or it's regulations, whatever the case may be, and you grade them. How did this fit in the grading system 1 to 10 of freedom? And you add them all up, what's the grade for this city councilman and that city councilman? I guarantee you start putting this kind of information out, you will get their attention. That is vital. They need, here's what victory looks like. And I've said this many times. You have these NGOs who are bringing all these different programs into the community, and they're going up to your city councilman and they're saying, hey, I got the next one for you. It's all right here in the box, got the money for you too. And you have been successful in really exposing them, really giving them a lot of grief on things they're doing. Here's what victory looks like. When that city councilman looks at that NGO member and he says, are you nuts? Do you know what my people will do to me if I do this? That's what victory looks like. Now you've got their attention. And by the way, one more thing you can do, very important for you to do. Don't just show up at meetings and complain. Get a personal relationship going with your city councilman or your mayor, or whoever the case may be. Call them, talk to them, take them out to lunch once in a while. And maybe you can get a relationship going to where they listen to you. Wouldn't it be something if an NGO came in with another policy and then he said, the city councilman said, I got to call Joe. I got to see what he thinks about this. Now you're in the game. That's what we need to do. So those are just some of the very basic building blocks that we need to do to pull this together. And as I said in the beginning, our goal is to change the debate. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. The other side announces policies, and we got all this political correct language and so forth. And one of the most recent examples of this is the left in recent years changed the debate over elections. What did they start to do? They started to say it was racist to demand that somebody have ID to vote. It's racist to say that illegals shouldn't be allowed to vote. After all, they have a stake here too. And on and on and on. And they have opposed cleaning the voter rolls. And, of course, with the mail-in thing now with COVID, that became the big thing. Every one of those things led to this mess that we have in this election this time. They planned it. They knew exactly what they were doing. Here is the greatest opportunity you've ever had to change the debate. Now you can start to say, we have got to have IDs for every single person to vote. They have got to be American citizens. And we've got to clean the voter rolls and all the other things connected with this. I would say you start to advocate that we never again have a computer or a machine for voting. Every ballot has got to be a paper ballot and not a mail-in ballot. Every single thing that has to do with the election has got to be secure. This is your opportunity to change the debate. Now that's an example on that issue, but you can use it on a whole lot of other issues. Talk about private property, talk about free enterprise, begin to change the debate and begin to stand up for the owners of those businesses, the small businesses, the owners of the property, and begin to change that debate. So these are just some of the basics that I wanted to go over so that you would have these kind of details to deal with and begin to get started to fight back in your own community. And we've created the Activist Handbook and how to fight back in your own community. And this has in it all these details I've just talked about, and it has a lot of the details of the issues on the second half of the book So you have the background, so you know how to talk about these issues, know what the details are. And so all that is in here, and you can get all this at our website at americanpolicy.org. And we have the collection of the other 5 webinars we've done so far. There are going to be probably another 4 or 5 that we're going to do as we come up. Now that the election's over, we're going to start in again. So I hope you will begin to grab hold of this and begin to take some of these ideas and put them in place, begin to organize, turn your own community into a freedom pod, and together we're going to fight across this country, and we're going to take America back. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Hi, this is Tom DeWeese from the American Policy Center, and I want to tell you about the full program that we are putting together as we put these webinars together. The webinars are the first part of what we are working on to help local activists become citizen ninjas, become powerful to fight on the local level, to stand up to things and these policies and your city councils and your county commissions, and effectively push back on the things that they're putting together. And we're putting together the series of webinars. And one of the things you can do with these webinars is keep them. They'll be available on our website at americanpolicy.org. You can share them with others. You can watch them over and over again. You can use them as programs for organizations that you're already part of and begin a training process there. We've got to get a cadre of trained activists to stand up to the forces that we are up against. What we're facing, you can see by watching your television every night now, what we are up against in an opposition that is highly trained to absolutely destroy the Republic of the United States of America, your property rights, your ability to live your life as you choose. And what we are doing here is working to counter that effort that they are putting together, and begin to restore our liberties. And again, the webinars are the first part of that. And the second thing that we've done is we've put together this activist handbook to how to fight back on the local level. In fact, the webinars are basically designed to bring this to life. Let me just share with you some of the things that are in this manual. I don't think anybody has ever put together a more comprehensive tool for you to use in these cases. First of all, we've got a great deal of information in here about the real enemy that you're facing. The Green New Deal, the Agenda 21, sustainable development policies that are taking over every single community. And I know if you've been an activist, you've gone to try to talk to your city councilman and so forth, and they'll tell you, never heard of it, don't know what that is, tell me something about it, whatever. Well, we've got all the details here and why it's bad news. And one of the things we're focusing on in the manual is how to take the offensive for liberty, and how to create your community as a freedom pod, where you are in your community alone. You are fighting back to restore and protect private property, free enterprise, and your personal freedom of choice. Those are the American pillars of freedom that we've all enjoyed through the history of the United States that are now under attack. We're teaching you how to fight back with those things. Particularly, we're focusing on the local governments. Everybody wants to get involved in the presidential campaigns and work on with Congress or whatever, but we believe that the most effective thing you can do to fight back is start on the local level, and it will grow up to the state legislature and then on into Congress and so forth. But it rarely works the other way, and we focus on that in the manual. We're going to talk about some of the organizations, the NGO organizations that are in your communities and how they operate. The National Association of Realtors, and how they have absolutely betrayed the whole issue of property rights, which they ought to be the leading advocate for. The American Planning Association, and how they've taken over every single community in this country and putting in plans. They say free enterprise doesn't work. so they have to have their planning. That should give you a real hint as to what their planning is really about. But they call it smart growth. They're destroying private property ownership, and so forth. We're going to talk about how to take legislative action. And we have put together a package of 5 bills that are all designed to cut back on the size, cost, growth, reach of government that is particularly on private property rights. And we're going to teach you and legislators how to use these bills in legislators and start a movement across the country. We're going to go into great detail about that. Taking the offense to restore our liberty is what this is all about, and how to become a citizen ninja. We've got 8 rules for successful activists to follow, what those are, how to organize, how to research. We've got in here a city survey. If you take this document and fill it out, a city survey on your community, and you will find what kind of programs you have there, who's involved, what they are. Once you get this whole document filled out, you'll know everything you need to know about your city and how to begin to fight back. It's a very, very valuable tool, and it's in the manual. How to write effective letters to the editor, and how to use the media, not just newspapers and television and radio, but also social media, and how we need to use those things and organize and get your message out. We have some tools in here that are extremely effective, and a lot of them are used to call out your elected officials. Do they stand for free enterprise, private property, and limited government, or are they promoting these massive government programs? We have some resolutions asking them to sign whether they do or not, and if they don't sign, you've got your answer. We've got a pledge for elected officials and candidates to sign. Guys running for office, and he says, "Oh yeah, I'm with you." Well, here's a resolution for him, a pledge for him to sign, saying that he supports private property rights. Now, if he signs it, wonderful. And if he starts to betray that when he gets into office, you've got that document in hand to say, "Hey, what are you doing here? This is what you said you believed in when we elected you." These kind of things. We've got a whole lot of handouts that you can produce and hand out to people on various issues, conservation easements and other attacks on private property. And wherever it fits your need, we can have that there. And we have a section in the manual talking about how to take back the elective process, how to get into your precinct organization. And if you organized your own precinct, you could become a very powerful person in your community. Elected officials or candidates would come to you, say, "Help me." And you could say, "Where do you stand? What do you stand for?" That'll determine whether I help you or not. This is in the manual. One of the big things that I've been working on for the last year and a half is a means to make elected officials personally responsible for their own actions. How do you do that? There are some legal actions that can be taken. We now have a couple of them that one of them has to deal with the 14th Amendment. One of them has to deal with the Section 1983 of the Civil Rights Act. We're going to have webinars on this, and we're going to teach you, and it's in the manual as well, how to deal with these things. And then we have just a whole lot of documents. Do you know what the Wildlands Project is? We've got a document in here that'll tell you what it is. It's how they're taking rural land. Do you know what complete streets are? We've got a document in here that'll tell you what that is. And international building codes, controls on urban growth, the AFFH bill from HUD, affirmatively furthering fair housing, which, by the way, the Trump administration has now said they're going to take away, but the National Association of Realtors says, "Well, we'll pick up the ball and take that instead." That, again, shows you their betrayal. National heritage areas and so forth. All of these are documents and much, much more in this manual that we have now put together. And it's all available for you on, I'll tell you what, the manual itself now is ready on Amazon and on our website at americanpolicy.org. And it is $49 $49.99 to just buy it outright. However, a lot of these programs, a lot of these documents, a lot of the research documents that are just too big to put into this document, we now have those. We have on our website called a toolkit, and that toolkit has a lot of these documents. It has also where in the manual we do have some of these handouts that you can use, but it's kind of hard to get them out of the book, so you can download them from the website. And all of these kinds of documents and more, we're getting ready to put together some another section on the website where we can document the activists in different communities and actions they've taken successfully or not, sample legislation, all that sort of thing. And by the way, in here we have a kit of 5 bills that have been presented to us, provided for us by state legislator Matt Shea in Washington State, that all focus on limiting government and protecting private property. And those are downloadable on the toolkit on the website. So it's all in there together. And what we're asking with all of these details, you know, about a year or 2 years ago, I put out a 5-point action plan of how to restore all this. The webinars are the first part of that action plan. The website is another part that, as we're putting it together, and as that is being developed. And we're working on, and again, putting these media sources together, as I mentioned, the radio shows, things like that. Those are all part of that action plan. Well, you know, it takes some funds to put all these things together. So what we're asking is, you can get the manual for just $49.99 on Amazon, or for a donation of at least $100, you can have access to everything, the manual itself and the toolkit, and all the updates that we give as they come along, and lots and lots of other information that will be coming down the pike as we do that. You will be part of the team. Just a donation, a one-time donation of $100, and you'll have access to all of that. So our goal is to restore the Republic of the United States of America and all the freedoms that we were guaranteed to be protected in our Constitution. That is our goal. We are up against a massive force, as you know, but we can beat them. And they are terrified that you're going to learn the information that we're providing here. And the last thing they want is for you to know this information. So get the information, become a powerful citizen ninja in your own community, how to organize, how to fight back, all the details, everything you need, all of it comes together. If you can see your way to give us a donation of at least $100 one time, then you will have access to all of it. So I hope you'll do that. I hope you'll join us, and let's take America back. Thank you.